Well, I don't really have like a really great opening for this. It's
That's
not.
okay. 4 years ago.
That's been taken, and
I think it's copyrighted, Todd.
Patrick Stibbs joining us on Campfire Conversations. How are you tonight, sir?
How are you? Thanks for having me out here. This is beautiful out here.
It is. We are at the Acres east of Council Bluffs. It's off of Homestead Avenue. You follow Railroad Avenue out and you'll find it. And it's an event center, and the Schneckloff family was very kind in saying that I could use this to be able to shoot video here and
That's awesome.
have a fire in their bonfire area. So
Now, the Schneckloffs, did their family ever work for Pepsi Cola? Do you know?
I have no idea.
Because I knew some Schneckloffs growing up.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, up in the Underwood area, I think.
Well, this would be in Omaha, but they were from everywhere. I mean, so that might be the same family. It's a small world, Todd. Yeah. Anyway.
We live in the Midwest. That's the first.
Exactly.
Actually, this is a true story. I was down in Georgia where I finished high school and met a guy. We were going in the same class, and his older sister had a college roommate from Iowa. And I told her that when I was from Iowa, she said, "Oh, you ever hear of a town called Pocahontas?" And I said, "I grew up 13 miles from Pocahontas."
Really?
And she said, "What was her name? Kathy?" And I said, "Gonerman?" And she went, "That happened."
Wow.
I was 1,000 miles away.
Isn't that something?
And ran into somebody that I used to babysit Doberman back during
Oh
the
my
day,
gosh,
so.
that's too cool. Too cool.
Anyway, you and I have a little bit of a similar history
Yeah.
in radio, and you're actually still dabbling in it some.
Yeah.
but,
Yeah. Still doing the writing and producing thing, and help launching stations from time to time, and do an on-air thing every now and then, and mostly behind the scenes though, writing and producing and commercials and now screenplays and that type of thing. So yeah, it's in our blood. You know,
Why is that though? Because
we're not fit for conventional employment. I think that's what it is,
okay,
Todd.
there's a really
And then
good.
here's a cat. There's a good luck charm right
yeah,
there.
yeah, we've got cats roaming around. There's another one over there.
Hi, sweetie. Yeah, you're right. We do have similar backgrounds. You got into radio. What year did you get into it?
93.
93. And where was that at?
Iowa Falls, Iowa.
Okay. Iowa Falls.
Yeah, they made a big deal when their FM power went from 4,700 to 6,000 watts.
Oh, wow. Throw a party.
Yeah. But this was, oh, hi, how are you? This was back during the days where we still signed off.
Okay.
And we signed, through the week, we signed off at 10 p.m.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have your license, your FCC?
I got into radio just after that went away.
Okay.
It had just gone away. And that's when I went and read for the job. They wanted me to read some news copy and had to read it cold. And the news director liked it, or the station manager liked it. And I was doing Saturday nights and Sunday mornings. That's how I got started.
I'll be darned. I lost my FCC license. The last I remember, it was hanging up at the Coil Radio building in the Twin Towers on 30th and Douglas, and that's the last I remember. My friend Gus Rodino,
I know Gus.
You know Gus. He still has his. Gus, I want to see your FCC license one of these days. I know you still have yours.
Well, this will be posted up on Facebook. So, Gus, if you see this, just take a picture. And
Take a picture.
Put it underneath.
I do miss my FCC license because people don't believe us older folks when we say, yeah, you had to have this FCC license. They're like, come on, nobody does that. I'm like, yeah,
well,
we did.
Yeah, we had to know how to take tower readings and all of it. I mean, that's not even a thing.
Sign the logs at the end of the night.
Every time. Yeah.
Yeah. Those were the days, Todd. I tell you. AM radio.
So the reason I wanted to talk to you is because of the screenwriting part of it. And I'm finding since I started doing this project of how many people locally are doing national things.
Yes.
And people in the Council Bluffs in the Omaha area, there's a bigger community.
There is.
Than I think folks are aware of.
People aren't aware of, yeah. You're
and
right.
you wrote a screenplay that was turned into a motion picture.
Yeah, I did. And, it's interesting because when you mentioned the group of people, there's actually a group called Hollywood Prep. And they were people that went to Creighton Prep, where I went. I was class of 78, and this group is all the way from, early 70s to the 2000s. There's like 75 to 80 people in this group. And they're mostly in California, but they all came from Creighton Prep in Omaha. And they're all out there doing different things in the field,
Right.
acting, directing, writing, exhibitor relations, whatever. So when I sit there and look at that, and I go, wow, look at all these people. There's our first listener calling in, by the way, wants to win a prize, I think.
Yeah, we'll just say it's caller number 3.
Caller number 3.
Yeah.
You just win tickets to Deadpool, caller number 3. There you go. You win. But no, but so the screenwriting thing was interesting because when I've been a writer all my life of radio and TV spots.
Yeah.
That was always my thing. And even when I was in the marketing, and because I got out of the on-air part because I really wasn't good enough to be on the air. I had an old program director, lovely man by the name of Terry Mason, who was my program director at Coil Radio. And Terry one time said to me, have you ever thought about maybe getting into sales and marketing? I think that was his way of saying that I sucked on the air. I'm not really sure. Maybe it was a nice way, but...
Well, although I don't know of anybody that wasn't presented that question at some point.
You're right.
Because radio sales it's a revolving door quite often.
Yeah.
And then when you land on somebody that's good at it, you hang on to them with like grim death. But.
Well, and the thing is I was never, when I got into the marketing side, I was never crazy about the sales part. I just loved to write. So I would love to sit down and meet a client who, we'd say, hey, what do you want to do here? And I'd sit there and come up with ideas for them, and sometimes literally just write the commercial in front of them, and act it out, and they'd be like, wow. And so I that's what I really loved about the radio business. It really wasn't the on-air part so much as the writing. So in radio all these years, and I've been a movie fan since I was a little kid. In the 1970s, we had a show called Creature Feature, which ran on KMTV Channel 3 with a guy named Dr. Sanguinary, and he was a horror movie host. And every Saturday night at 10:30, this was before Saturday Night Live started.
Right.
This was earlier, like in 71, 72, I was 11, 12 years old, and I'd watch these horror movies every Saturday and was just fixated on these things. And every week it was on. And so I just became a huge movie buff, and especially horror films. And then when I got older and I started working with the studios and the theaters on doing movie screenings and that type of thing for the radio stations I worked at, I saw so many crappy movies that I just said to myself, I think I can write a better one than some of this crap that I'm watching on the screen. And I happened to be reading, an old Hollywood magazine from the 40s. It was kind of like, Hollywood Confidential or the National Enquirer of its day, and all full of gossip and, juicy tidbits of stars and that thing. And I read in the obituaries, there was an actress, just this B-movie actress, whose name even escaped me. She wasn't even really famous. Well, maybe she was in the 40s, and she passed away, and her family said she was very much a practical joker. So when they came to her wake, and they all walked into the funeral home, everybody got a business card that walked in. And on the business card, it just said, if you're bored, call me. And there was a telephone number. And the people are like, probably going, what the heck is this? And everybody got one as they walked in. So everybody goes up to the casket to pay their last respects, the visitation. And the woman is laid out in the casket, and on her chest is a black rotary telephone. It's just sitting there on her chest. And the family announced that when they were going to bury her, obviously shortly, she's being buried with this telephone in her coffin. So everybody, please feel free to call her if you ever want to talk to her. So, true story, this actually happened. And obviously she meant it as a ha-ha, funny joke. To me, that sent like a shiver down my spine. I thought there's an idea there for a movie.
Right.
So, because I envisioned all these people going home. And they did this. Everyone picked up that damn telephone and called that number.
Of course they did.
To see what was on the other line.
Well, yeah, it's the same that every single person at some point in their life that's close to our age has dialed 867-5309. We've all done it.
To see if Jenny will answer.
Yeah,
yes.
Exactly.
Yes. And if she does, that's scary.
Yeah.
Because Jenny died like 10 years ago. So. Anyway, so I envisioned these people calling this phone number, And either it was just a dead line, no pun intended, or there were really no answering machines back in the 40s. So, and what if it was her? What if it was her and she was still living and that was the ultimate practical joke that she played? Now, I never read a follow-up on this woman, but I did tear the article out and I kept it in a drawer, a dresser drawer, and I thought, if I ever write a screenplay, I want this to kind of play into it.
Mm-hmm.
So every now and then I would kind of jot some notes down, and then finally, one day I decided to write the script, The Call, and the basis of my screenplay and now movie, of course, is that incident where it's an older woman, an elderly woman who's terrorized by these 4 teenagers, and put her on her deathbed. And then she makes a wager with them before she dies that if they will go up to her room and call the number, because she's getting buried with the telephone, the whole bit, they'll win $100,000 apiece. So that was the basic plot opening of the movie, so to speak. And so I wrote the thing years and years ago. I mean, I wrote that first draft in 1999.
Okay.
And over the years, companies would option it to try to get it made, then they couldn't raise the money. And so finally I just said, well, one of these days, it'll happen. And in the meantime, I met a gentleman named Randy Goodwin. He's an actor in Hollywood, and I met him. He came to the Sweet and Eat Studios one day because he was in a movie, The Natalie Cole Story, where he played Natalie Cole's husband. And he was doing press, and he was visiting the stations around the country. And I happened to meet him, and he also went to prep, although he's younger than me. Everybody's younger than me, Todd. And so we just talked, and I gave him the screenplay. I said, hey, I'd like you to read this. And he goes, all right, I'll read it. And then I didn't think much of it. And like 2 weeks later, he called me and said, hey, I love this. And he goes, I'm not in a position right now to get this made, but someday maybe I will be. So we kept in touch, and I just kept writing and wrote another script, and then another script, and then finally, why networking is so important is Randy's agent Gina was the same agent as actress Lynn Shay, who is a horror movie idol. She's in all the Insidious films, and I mean, she's done like 100 horror films in her career. And comedy, she's done comedies. There's Something About Mary and Kingpin and Dumb and Dumber. She was in all of those, and she's a tremendously talented woman. Same agent as Lynn. So Gina got the script to Lynn and said, what do you think of this? And then one day Gina called me and said, hey, Lynn wants to talk to you. She likes your script. This was in 2017,
Okay.
18. So Lynn calls me one day from LA, and we talk for a couple hours, and she's a very honest woman. She's like, I love your screenplay, but I hate my character. And she said, I've done this whole supernatural thing over and over again, and horror. She goes, I just want my character. I realize I'm the villain, but I want my character to be likable, believable. I want people to sympathize with her for what she's going through. So I want you, if you would, basically rewrite her whole character. And I did. And this was before any deal was done. There was no promise of, oh yeah, we're going to get this thing made or anything. I just thought, yeah, I'll do it. She gave me the most awesome notes. I mean, the woman knows her craft. And so I rewrote the whole script, her character. And then she loved it, and she brought in the director, and then he loved it and had me make a couple more changes. And then he takes it to the studio. And within 6 months, we sold the script. And this was in now 2019. And the film, I sold it at the end of 19, and then they shot the film in LA in 2020, in January and February of 2020. So my son Chris and I went out to see some of the filming of it in LA, and then they got the movie filmed, and they started to edit and everything, and then COVID hit. And everything was kind of shelved for a while because the studios all closed. But then eventually they were able to get the film edited, put together, the composer, the editor, the whole bit. So instead of a July release date of 2020, it got moved to October of 2020, which I thought was perfect because it's Halloween. Right. Horror films need to be around Halloween. That's my thing. I never liked a film that opened in the summertime that was a horror film. I'm like, that's like going to a haunted house in the daytime.
Right.
So anyway, so it opened in October of 2020, and it ended up doing pretty well. Despite COVID, we opened in about 375 theaters around the country, theaters and drive-ins.
Right.
And keep in mind, the drive-ins all opened first because it was all open air. So people were more comfortable going to the drive-ins before they were the movie theaters in 2020. And but a lot of the big A-list movies got moved to 2021, so it left gaping holes for theaters that were now open that needed product. So that's how my film got so many screens in the United States. And then the distributor got it, all told, it opened in like 10 countries. And so yeah, it ended up doing pretty well. And you know, it's not a $100 million film by any means. You know, the budget's it's a smaller budget, but I think that's a good thing because the film turned a nice profit because of that. And which is another thing when people talk about Hollywood and they talk about these $200 million films that get made, and I'm just like, that is such a crapshoot these days. It really is, especially post-COVID, because there are still a lot of people that are not comfortable, believe it or not, going to a movie theater right now. They were so used to watching movies at home, and they're like, yeah, you know, I got my easy chair, and the bathroom's right there, and there's my fridge, and I could just sit here at home and watch the movie. And I'm like, if that's what you want to do, knock yourself out. I'm one of those that wants to go to the theater with the popcorn on the big screen in the dark, watch it with a bunch of strangers. That, to me, is a movie-going experience. I don't want to watch a movie at home, and I rarely do.
Even the some of the older ones.
Well, older films, yeah. I mean, I would watch some of those. But if a new movie comes out, I have to see it in a theater. And if I don't see it in a theater, there's a good chance I won't even watch it. Which I know sounds weird, but that's how much I like. Because the most fun job I ever had when I was a teenager was working in a movie theater. And as much as I love radio and loved radio, that to me was still probably my favorite job. Is walking into a theater, the smell of the 100-year-old carpet, the popcorn, the whatever, you know, that just did something to me. And to this day, when I walk into a theater, I still get that. It's a feeling I get that's like, yeah, I'm home.
Do drive-ins do that for you too, or is that a different experience?
It's a different experience now. I love drive-ins. I had a lot of clients that were drive-ins. The Council Bluffs Drive-In Theater was a client of mine for years and years, and so
I saw several movies there.
Yeah, I missed that place so much. And so, yeah, I love the drive-in experience. I love the concession stand at a drive-in. Again, you walk into a drive-in concession stand and there's just this feeling. In fact, it's a feeling you don't get at an indoor movie theater. It's a completely different feeling.
To me, walking in to a concession stand at a drive-in kind of feels like walking into a bunker.
Yeah.
Because they're usually made out of cinder block.
Yeah.
And
and this fluorescent lighting that's somehow keeping the hot dogs and hamburgers warm.
Yeah, but not you at the same time. That's the strange thing. But yeah, I'm actually going next week to a drive-in.
Are you going to the Quasar?
Yeah.
Yes, the Quasar Drive-In.
Yes.
Jeff is I know Jeff and his wife, and very nice people.
Well, on the 15th, which is a Thursday, and hopefully we won't pack the place, but
Jeff and Jennifer. Jennifer, I'm sorry, I forgot your name for a second. Jeff and Jennifer Carl, sorry.
They are showing Smokey and the Bandit.
Oh my gosh.
And I have never seen Smokey and the Bandit on a big screen because, see, I'm a little bit younger. I'm not terribly younger, but a little bit younger. So when Smokey and the Bandit came out in '77, I think it was, my mother thought it was inappropriate for children. Because, I think they said shit.
Yeah, they probably cussed a few times.
Yeah, so that was, kids can't go to see that. So when I finally did see it, but I was allowed to see Cannonball Run.
And you remember it. And I'm sorry, you were what?
I was allowed to see Cannonball Run.
Oh, Cannonball Run, okay.
Which is, almost the same movie. But for some reason, Smokey and the Bandit worked, and Cannonball Run is just campy.
Yeah. But, oh my gosh. And you remember that experience? You probably remember. Is that one of the first films you remember seeing, or?
Well, the first movie that I ever saw when I was little, I was in Iowa Falls back because my grandparents lived there, so we went there quite a bit, and I saw Snow White, and it scared the crap out of me. Oh my God, that was a scary movie.
It was.
And then I also, in that same theater, I saw King Kong.
Okay, the original King Kong?
This
or the remake?
The remake, this 76?
Okay,
75.
Jeff Bridges.
Yeah.
Yes. Jessica Lange, yeah.
Jessica Lange, yeah. And that one sucked me in.
Yeah.
And I saw Star Wars in the theater, and saw E.T. in the theater. You know, this is my
Those are what your memories are made of, man. Seeing these movies in the theater, seeing E.T. in the theater.
right.
Even though I was older, that was quite an experience because it was quite a movie,
Well, and the
And
first time we went, this is the first time this had ever happened. We got there and it sold out,
okay,
so we weren't able to go because where I grew up in this tiny little town, we had to drive 18 miles to Emmitsburg, which that theater I think is still there.
is it really?
Yeah,
And it's a drive-in?
no, that's
indoor
a regular
theater.
indoor
Okay.
theater.
Okay.
And I don't think the last time I was in there, I saw Toy Story 2 in that theater.
Okay.
And they hadn't updated it, so it was still the old seats.
Oh wow.
So which there's something nostalgic about that too. Not I love stadium seating. I
Yeah.
love putting your feet up. I love
Yeah.
all of that. But when you have a chance to go to an older theater
Yes.
and sit in the old style seats,
Exactly. Like the theater in Missouri Valley, the Rialto.
right?
I try to go there at least once a year, and my daughter loves that theater too. So we'll just see what's playing at the Rialto, and we'll drive all the way to Missouri Valley just to go to that theater, a small town theater, which I have always loved. And in fact, anytime I visit a small town, I always look to see if they have a movie theater there. And if I have time, I always have to go. I don't even care what's playing. I just want to go see whatever movie it is. And
well, this is an interesting. I believe this is true. Let me say that I believe this is true. The original Twister,
yes,
Steven Spielberg.
96.
Yes, Steven Spielberg involved with that. Part of that was filmed up in Hardin County, where Iowa Falls is, near Eldora.
Oh, really?
And this is what I had heard, that the original idea was for the house at the end of the movie to be destroyed.
Okay.
Well, a group of people got together and said, wait, this could be a great tourist attraction
Yeah.
for us. So they got courts involved and was able
Really?
to stop that house because for some reason something about it being a historical landmark
yeah.
because it was that old. So they were able to get it stopped. Steven Spielberg had planned on doing an initial showing there at the theater in Eldora and was going to give a lot of money to rehab it.
Really?
Pulled all his money.
Really?
Now that's
Oh boy.
that's the rumor. It's not like I have Spielberg's number and he
Yeah.
gave it to me directly.
Yeah.
But I
But he wasn't happy that he couldn't destroy
Right.
the house or whatever.
Right. He was not happy at all about that, and so.
Did you see the new Twisters?
I have not yet, but I'm going to.
It's very
That
good.
Is it's to me it seems like okay, they found the summer movie.
They did, and it's a true summer blockbuster film that the whole family can see. And I loved it. I didn't know if I was going to like it at first because I did love the original Twister, and but I got to tell you, Glenn Powell and is it Daisy Jones? Is that the actress? I'm trying to think. Anyway, fantastic, great chemistry. The story's good. Of course, the effects are great. In '96 we didn't have CGI, so those
Right.
were somewhat crude special effects, but they were still good. And but now, obviously, with what we can do now with film, the new Twisters is off the charts. So I highly recommend, if you guys haven't seen it, go see that movie.
Thinking back to when you said you were a kid and really got into movies back then, I'm not asking you what you thought the best movie was, but what was the best movie for you that really jumps out when you were a kid that you think that this was the best one?
Well, as a kid, there was a movie. I was probably about 4 years old when I saw it, and it was called The Tingler. And it was an old black and white horror film by a director named William Castle, who happens to be one of my all-time favorite movie directors. As a matter of fact, The Call, some of the stuff I put in The Call is sort of an homage to William Castle.
Really?
He did a film called House on Haunted Hill.
That I remember.
Yeah, and that one was also about a group of people spending a night to get money at this haunted house. So I kind of borrowed a little bit of that for The Call, and there's a few things in the movie that are sort of a tribute to William Castle. But The Tingler was this cheesy. You look at it now, and it's so schlocky and so cheesy, but it was about this monster that could grow inside of you when you got scared. It would grow on your spine. It looked like this big centipede-looking thing, and it would grow on your spine. But when you screamed, it would go away, or it would die, or whatever. And so Vincent Price played this scientist who thought, what would happen if somebody was so scared but couldn't scream? And so he ends up finding a deaf mute, and I don't know if that's a politically correct term now, but a woman who couldn't talk or hear, and he ends up doing this experiment where she cannot scream, and they remove this tingler from her body, and it gets loose, breaks loose, and there's a scene in the movie where some people are watching a film in a movie theater, and the tingler gets loose. So, imagine you're in a theater in 1963 and you're watching the tingler on screen, and then the people on your screen are watching a movie, and then the tingler's loose in the theater, right? So there's a particular scene where the tingler gets loose, and the screen goes black, and you hear Vincent Price say something like, "The tingler is loose in the theater." So what William Castle did is he had gimmicks with all of his films.
Right.
He had buzzers in certain seats of movie theaters across the country that the projectionist would flip a switch and your ass would get buzzed when the tingler was loose in the theater. So maybe out of, say there was 200 seats in the theater, maybe 30 or 40 of them had these tinglers. And so people would get the crap scared out of them because they would jump up. I mean, the guy was brilliant. He did all these things for theaters. And so I think watching the tingler as a kid in a movie theater, when I was like 4 years old and scared to death of this creepy, crazy looking thing, now that I realize it was just pulled by a string by a special effects guy, you know.
Yeah, but still, your parents at 4 years old taking you to that movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
And they really weren't necessarily, I mean, my mom loves movies to this day. My father never did really care for films. But so I could see my mom just saying to my dad, "Ah, come on, Buzz, let's take the kids to a movie." And my dad probably fell asleep watching the movie, you know. And so yeah, but it was pretty cool. That was pretty cool to have parents. Hi, Mom, love you. That took me to, and now what I try to do is I go to the movie sometimes with my wife, and then I'll ask my mom and sister to go, and you know, my mom's 88 now, so she still loves going to the movie theater. She still loves it, and I still love it. And again, if some of you out there are nervous at all about going back to a movie theater, don't be at this stage, because it's you know, it's still a great experience. It really is.
Well, I've been to a couple of different ones recently. I saw the new Deadpool movie.
Yeah, do you like it?
It was okay.
Okay.
It was
yeah.
okay. I thought I struggled with the story. I never really got into the story.
Yeah.
The jokes are great.
Yeah.
But
well, the story is not the best story. It's
No.
just a series of funny gags and
Yeah.
special effects and
And
funny
then
characters.
Also went and saw Horizon, the new Kevin Costner movie. And
how was that?
That again, slow, but
Yeah.
but I think that's the point.
Yeah.
To what he's doing. He's trying to do something a little bit different.
He is.
And I think it's ultimately going to be about 12 hours of movie,
Right.
released over 4 different.
Right. Because
So
some people, the movie didn't do that well.
no, it didn't. But I thought the cinematography was phenomenal.
Right. Yeah. But some people thought that Warner Brothers would not release the second one because the first one was below expectations. But I just read an article where the second one is now at one of the film festivals and is still going to be coming out.
Well,
so he's going to continue with it.
I think it's doing better on digital at home than it does in the theater.
Yeah.
Which, for guys my age, it's a struggle to sit through a 3-hour movie.
Oh yeah, it really is.
Because I have to plan ahead in order to get through it without a bathroom break.
Right.
So, because I don't. When was the last time there was a movie with an intermission? I remember.
Oh man.
I remember Gandhi had one.
Yeah.
It was so long.
Gandhi had one.
Because I remember seeing that in the Emmitsburg Theater.
Right. But I remember they brought back the Sound of Music, and I went and saw that. Something that flew in my ear. I think it's a horror film. And Sound of Music has an intermission. Recently, I think my daughter and I went to the 70th anniversary of Gone with the Wind a few years ago, and there's an intermission there. Because, again, those movies are all 3+ hours. And, you know, back in the old days, films that long always had intermissions.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they really don't, you know. And because the theaters don't want any more dead time. They want to be able to get that movie out of there and get another showing going, and that's why longer films sometimes don't do as well because they don't have as many showings per day. And that's why I was so happy when my director made the call. You know, that thing clocked in at like, I don't know, 100 minutes maybe. So because I don't like movies that I call overstaying their welcome.
Right.
It's like I like to get into the story, get the action going, and come out in a relatively quick amount of time. Because I think, sure, you can tell a story in 2.5 hours, but I think the trick is, can you tell a great story in 90 minutes? And, Walt Disney always said when he made his films, they were always 75 minutes long. Now, he made films for kids and adults. I mean, they were that good. Adults loved his films too. But Disney said the average human being's attention span, and he was talking about kids,
right,
is 75 minutes. You can't go over that. You'll lose them. So that's why all those early Disney films were 75 minutes long. Nowadays, Disney makes a film and it's 2 hours plus. Yeah, I mean, Deadpool was probably, 2 hours and 15 maybe?
Yeah, it was well over 2.
And sometimes I don't think that's necessary. I think there's something to be said for telling a really good story in a shorter amount of time. I really do. And some directors are very, egotistical, and they want all their work to be out there and up on the screen for as long as they can. And I just don't believe in that philosophy. Because people's attention spans, you better be telling a darn good story, or you're going to lose them. So that's sort of my thing.
Do you have a movie that, for you, is an all-stop if it comes on, and that's it, that's my day, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to watch this regardless of how many times you've seen it?
Yes, A Few Good Men with Tom Cruise and Jack Nicholson, which Rob Reiner directed. Yeah. I could watch that. In fact, my wife and I just watched it maybe a month ago. To me, that movie never gets old. It's so perfect, and it's so well done. Aaron Sorkin wrote it, who's an amazing writer, and he also wrote the play it was based on. And that is one movie that I will sit and watch over and over. I mean, not every day or every week.
Right, but yeah.
I'll be like, let's watch this. Some movies just have that. Back to the Future and Raiders of the Lost Ark are another two films that I don't watch them at home, but when they bring them back to theaters, which they do quite often, right, my daughter and I will go to those because we just saw Raiders of the Lost Ark a few weeks ago. They brought it back into theaters. And a timeless story. I mean, that movie's perfect, in my opinion.
The theater down in Bellevue, it was a few years ago now, showed Close Encounters.
Oh, the Twin Creek?
And I went and saw that.
Did you?
Yeah.
See, that's another one you got to see on the big screen, right?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah,
and I've seen it before, but on television.
Yes.
But for me, El Dorado is my movie.
El Dorado.
That just because my feeling is the acting in that with Robert Mitchum and James Caan especially, or you don't see that typically in a movie that came out in 1968.
Right.
And I get that, El Dorado and Rio Bravo are basically the same movie.
Yeah.
But you got Mississippi and El Dorado, and you got the character Colorado in Rio Bravo. I think El Dorado's a better movie.
Yeah.
Because I think the comedy is written so well, and I think it's delivered just spot on. I love that film.
Yeah. Yeah, I need to watch that one again because it's been a long time since I've seen that film. Very long time.
Part of it, too, is my grandfather was 6'4" and just a big, giant, hulking man that was built like John Wayne.
Yeah.
So when I see John Wayne on the screen, it reminds me of my grandfather.
Yeah. Yeah, he was a legend, man. My favorite John Wayne film was The Cowboys. Which
I was thinking about this.
Yeah.
There is a line in that movie. See, when I saw it on television, like on broadcast television.
Right.
And the first time that I saw it, I was young and I didn't understand what this meant. But they were talking about going, the kids peeking through a tent at the burlesque show.
Yeah.
And well, what did she look like? Well, she had a belly button so big you could put your middle finger in it. I thought, what? That isn't.
That's a riot.
They put that. They left it in.
Oh my
They
gosh.
left it in.
Past the censors. Right over their
How?
head.
I guess they were just, they'd gone out for coffee or something right then, because how that ended up getting through, I have no idea.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, I love The Cowboys is a great
The
movie.
Cowboys was fantastic. Bruce Stern is the villain, and John Wayne and all those kids.
Yeah,
And
I've seen the interviews about it too. That John Wayne told Bruce Dern, everybody's going to hate you for this. They're going to hate you.
Yeah.
And because Bruce Dern that's one of the better villains, I think.
Oh my gosh. He always played a great villain.
Yeah.
Yeah, he really did. Yeah, so movies have always been, obviously they're a part of your life, they're a part of my life. I'm sure the viewers watching this, same thing. There's just something about the magic of the movies, and that's why, like I said, to me, people always talk about streamers and streaming and this and that, and there's a place in it for everything. But I don't care how many streaming services there are to offer, nothing is going to beat watching that movie on a big screen in the dark with your popcorn and the people around you. That's just all there is to it.
I've gone to plenty of them alone.
Yep. Oh yeah. Absolutely.
Which, when I went and saw Doctor Strange, I saw it in IMAX. The entire row that I was in, was all single people watching that movie, because there was one space between every one of us, all the way across that row.
Yeah. Yeah. I love going to movies by myself. I love going to movies whether I'm with somebody or by myself. I just love movies. But whether I'm with my family or my wife or just me, sometimes I'll just be like, I'm kind of stressed out. It's 3 p.m. I'm going to take a break and go see, I saw the new movie Trap that just came out. M. Night, how do you pronounce it? Shyamalan, thank you. Yeah. I keep Shyamalan Ding Dong. That comes to mind all the time. And it was a pretty good film. You have to suspend your belief a little bit toward the end, but because he'll never beat The Sixth Sense. There's just no way.
Right.
And but Trap is a fun movie to see. And I don't want to give anything away, but watch the trailer for the movie Trap that's out now. And it's got a great story, and it's a good film. Not a great film, but a very good film.
Can you think of a movie that surprised you, that you weren't expecting a lot out of it and you just really enjoyed it?
Well, in a way, Twisters. Because I loved the first Twister, and I had heard some people talking about the new one saying, well, it's just sort of more of the same and with better effects. And of course, I never listen to what other people say. I really don't. If I want to see a movie, I'll go no matter what. I don't care if 2,000 people tell me it sucks, I'm still going to go. But I remember thinking, well, you know what? Maybe it is just, the trailer kind of seemed like it was just the same kind of thing, So I went to it hesitantly and was pleasantly surprised how much I loved it. So I guess Twisters would be the one.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to like it, but not love it, but I actually loved it.
It's hard to explain, I think, what makes a movie grab you.
Yeah.
Because if they were able to quantify that, every movie would.
Right.
And they don't.
Right.
So something happens, and I don't know whether it's when they're shooting it or when they're editing it or exactly what's going on, that you can just kind of dive in and forget about everything for a while.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's magic. It's magic. That's what it is. It's the magic that, to me, will never go away. And there will always be movie theaters, and I'm grateful for that, because it's still my favorite thing to do.
Well, I want to let you plug your radio show, because there's a couple of different stations in Omaha that you do talk about movies.
Yeah. So I every Thursday morning I'm on with Otis 12 on KVNO 90.7. or kvno.org if you want to stream it. And it's called Cinema of Stibbs, and I go on with Otis 12, who's a legend in this town. Otis, oh my gosh. And every Thursday at 8:30 we talk about movies and give away a dinner and a movie thing for tickets to go see a movie at the Marcus Majestic Cinema, and dinner at Sergeant Pepper's, Saddle Creek. Have to give them a big shout out. And then every Friday morning I'm on Boomer Radio with Dave Wingert at 8:05 for a show called The Box Officer. And again, talk about new movies coming out, do some giveaways, have a trivia question. I always like to come up with fun trivia questions. And not just give away, hey, here, be caller number 3 to win. Nah, none of that crap. You got to earn it. So let's have a good trivia question you can earn. And so KVNO 90.7 on Thursday morning, 8:30, and Boomer 94.5 with Dave Wingert on Friday morning at 8.
Well, I'm grateful that you took the time.
Hey, man, thanks for having me. This has been great. I love it.
Yeah, this is, it's a great facility. Again, a plug to the Schneckloff family.
Yes.
And the
Thank you,
acres out
Schneckloffs.
there. Yeah, so if you have, if you got an event, just go to theacresvenue.com and you can get a hold of Kimberly and talk to her about everything going on out here. This is their bonfire area, which is, phenomenal.
This is beautiful.
And they've just done such a wonderful job.
And you know what? Late at night, maybe I could make a horror film out here. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, it's possible. Grateful, sir.
Hey,
thank you.
Thanks
much.
a lot, Todd.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll be back next week with another Campfire Conversations.